Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to many of us. Welcome to Marketing Monday. CXOTV continues its mission to share knowledge with Marketing Monday, a chat series that began in 2020 and has completed over 150 episodes featuring industry top marketers. In Marketing Monday, we dive into the mind of leading marketing professionals to uncover the latest insights, trend, and strategy shaping the marketing landscape. In this episode, we have the pleasure of hosting Rohan Kamra. He is APAC Marketing Head at Pure Storage. Hi, Rohan. Welcome to Marketing Monday. How are you doing today?
Hi, Anuj. Good morning, good afternoon now. Yeah, I'm good. How about you?
I am doing pretty good. Thanks, Rohan. And it's a pleasure to have you here. So let me start with the discussion a little bit about your journey in marketing. So can you just take us through your experience as a marketer? What initially drew you to the marketing, and what keeps you passionate about it till date?
Sure, I can try and do that. So that will also tell how old I am. So I think that's okay. That's part of the that's come with the job. So yeah, so I would say I'm a career marketer now. Over 17, 18 years now. So I've lost count. I've stopped discussing it. I talk to a lot of Gen Zs now, so but I'm a millennial. You can guess that. Yeah, so about 17, 18 years I started to get into marketing. Not a very conscious choice, I think, and I've heard that from a lot of people. But in my case, it was somehow planned, I would say. So I'm an Indian, so I studied in India, most of my graduation and post graduation, and which is very common for a lot of Indian kids, at least at that time, when I was in my late teens, early 20s. You're not really sure what you wanted. So I'm a a management graduate, postgraduate in marketing, or an MBA as it's called.
Wow.
And I mid course on MBA, I was actually trying to be a finance guy. I have a few cousins in the family who are investment bankers, and I thought that being an investment banker is pretty cool. You make a lot of money, you fly very nicely, with luxurious life. So it sounded really cool. So okay, I want to be an investment banker. But so I was actually studying finance. I'm one of the better finance colleges of India, and then I realized that I don't enjoy it. And I had a very good marketing professor. And marketing at that time, in the first year, typically in MBAs, you have fixed courses. And then from second year, you pick up electives. That used to be the norm, at least when I was doing it. And this prof of mine, so I took an elective course and said, "Hey, you're really good at this." I said, "No, this is just an elective course to get some, at least a B. And, make sure I get A's in all my economics, macros, investment banking, blah, 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 whatever the courses were." And said, "No, I think you have a natural passion for this thing. You talk a lot. You are able to convey yourself. You understand what the other person is talking. So those are typically marketing traits." I said, "Okay, that's interesting." So that elective became two electives, you know, picked up something else, third and fourth, and started realizing I like that more actually. So finally doing something which I like and not going with the herd mentality. Another factor which helped me was because in my graduation time, I had taken, I had mastered in psychology. It was consumer psychology, not meant from the serious side of clinical psychology or something like that. And I realized that all that I learned, which I think in graduation time, people only party. But I think I did learn something at that time, actually, and remember a lot of things from that time. I realized that I could put all those very well in marketing. It may not be finance, because finance is very rational, logic-based. Marketing more emotional, along with logic, obviously. So I started enjoying that, and that's how I got into the, let's call the marketing side of house. And after college, my first job was in sales, and I did not enjoy that. And I did it for some time. Great experience. Now I value that experience more than anything else. And then I joined agencies, or call them ad agencies or marketing consultants. Choose the word you like. Worked for a few years across a couple of them. I was at time, this is, kind of pivotal time, late 2000s. Digital was exploding as a medium. I think I was at that time took a smart call of saying, okay, let me focus on this. This seems to be the future. And I pushed all my energies towards the digital side, understanding how the medium works, similarities with traditional marketing channels, and how it's different. So got into that. though I'm not technically qualified, but learned a lot of things. I can code a fair bit now. You don't need anymore, but I coding SQL, learn a bit of Python, etc. Um, l- Took on the tools whichever were relevant, websites, social media, media, etc., etc. So I can go on, but so I learned on the job, and it was the good part is that as you are new and everybody around you is new to a medium or channel, you can make mistakes. So I think I chose that path of learning as you go instead of going for a maybe a dedicated course. That I can like me, and I was lucky because the times were interesting at the time. So this is when social media came up. This is when website became more than just one page posted somewhere on a web server. You had apps coming in. You then slowly these things started maturing better. Then you had influencer marketing coming in, for example, and then you had technology taking over marketing to an extent, or martech as it's called. So I was able to basically say ride those waves because I started enjoying that. Work didn't seem work. It was more of fun. And that should happen, I think, for young people if you're young, 20s, 30s. I feel that's the age you should just focus on learning. I think I did that. And yeah, and in between move jobs from agency world, I moved into what is called the client side or a brand. I started working with Intel in India. That's 2012. So yeah, 13 years back, worked with them in India, started handling, large campaigns, investments, got deeply into the media side of the house because Intel used to spend a lot of money on media at that time in India specifically. Expanded my geographies from India, moved to South Asia, so Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, but smaller markets, primarily India. Moved to Singapore, picked up a regional role or an APJ wide role, APAC and Japan role. Um, Started doing new things, other things, went into the B2B side, um, looked at enterprise audiences, mid-market, uh, set up a listening and command center for Intel, which still exists, more like an analytics backbone or powerhouse. Brought in a lot of technology in-house, especially for what you call is ad tech and even buying in-house. We did that at Intel. Did that, then took a pivot, got into retail media, which is still
Uh-huh.
big for your Amazons, your any non-traditional company that sits on the web is actually a media company in my eyes today. So that was upcoming, and we were working with a lot of these large e-commerce players, your Amazons, Flipkarts, Rakutens of the world. So yeah, worked for a couple of years there. Very interesting, a lot of learning, again, a lot of technology involved. Then about 2 years back, I moved to Pure Storage, where I'm currently working. I head up the digital and revenue marketing function for Pure Storage in APJ. Uh, I know, mouthful, but basically look at all, it's basically brand to demand. So focus on all that drives brand visibility up to driving a pipeline booking for the company. So again, this job entails things like all outbound and inbound marketing. So I'm talking about whether it's media buying, channel marketing, looking at experience, which means your website, your email marketing, and then events, which I support with my country marketing teams, who are my stakeholders. And yeah, the bottom line is to make the company more visible, more preferred versus competition. And then obviously at the same time, make sure that you are filling your pipeline. And ultimately that pipeline should convert into actual revenue. So very close to the action. Yeah, and that's what I do. So sorry for a long answer, but yeah, I hope it gives you a little idea.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. And thanks. It was a fantastic and a very meaningful reply, I would say. Marketing is all about emotions and finance is all about logic. And I can definitely relate to this story, Rohan, because, same, I had I'm a CA dropout and who actually did masters in MBA. So I can definitely relate to your story and the emotions around the marketing and this marketing is evolving now and a lot of opportunities around this particular thing, especially with a lot of AI into the action.
Absolutely.
So Rohan, looking ahead to 2025, how do you see that B2B marketing landscape evolving in the region, which is the APAC region, and with the rapid adoption of your cloud and AI? What are the biggest marketing challenges and the opportunity business face in the enterprise storage industry?
Yeah. I think I just had one comment. So I was also studying for CFA, like you for CA. So CFA, and then I dropped out. So, anyways, yeah. But I think it's interesting, chat is said. But I know the more time I've spent in marketing now, I have realized that a strong financial or finance foundation is very useful.
Very important. Yeah.
All those sessions I bunked in my MBA, I feel I should have spent a little more time. So anybody, if you aspire to a marketer, make sure you have strong finance fundamentals. Those
Absolutely.
are one of the key things you need as you grow into a marketing career, because you start need to speak the language of a CFO, uh, and a business language for a CEO. So I think those come really handy. So yeah, it's just about marketing.
Yeah.
It's a rounded thing that you need. So for young people who are aspiring, keep that in mind. Um, Now coming back to your question, yeah, it's an interesting time. I mentioned one when I was talking right now. Uh, I saw the advent of things like digital becoming a mainstream medium. So if you see now how spending happens, when I started working, it was primarily what was called offline media. So your TV, your print, your radio, out of home, which used to be almost 80% of the spend, even actually more. I mean, I'm talking about, I remember, not a joke, when I started working on the client side, or even in my agency world, I was working with some very large advertisers in India. I'm talking about really large CPG and tech, consumer tech companies. I don't want to name them. Digital was like the leftovers. So after they had put up money everywhere, whatever left, 1-2%, okay, do something with it. Okay, make a web page, blah, blah, blah. And that in today's world, globally, if you look at spending, I think digital, and let's use the US market for reference as the biggest, market of all, economy of all, you have roughly now, I think 65% of the money spent is now digital. The fact that the digitalization happened and it covered all other channels. So you can buy TV on digital. That's another factor that happened with technology, but that's the change in about 15, 16 years. Now, so then you had social media and other things coming up, and our life is all digitized now. Payments came in, changed the way we behave. Now, but what is happening, and we all talk about AI, cloud again is a phenomena, came about 20 years back, actually. But 10 years back, it got more attention, and now it's pervasive. It's everywhere. You don't want to bat an eyelid if somebody tells you, it's a cloud service. We don't have our own servers or on-prem, and nobody gives you a second, battles an eyelid. But there's a time when that was a big thing. So I think overall, as consumers, as individuals, this is again a big pivot. I think the biggest, more than what we saw, at least I saw in my lifetime, is what's happening right now. Why it is bigger and not for marketing is because it has implications that impacts people's jobs, lifestyles, everything. Social media to an extent did that. Cloud to an extent did that. But I think what potentially the artificial intelligence and its ramifications are way more. And I think people know about it, so I will not spend too much time on it. But from a marketing point of view, yeah, it's very interesting. So one of the things that I am sure everybody will hear more this year and going forward, and if not already heard in 2024, is efficiency. Uh, as marketeers and others understand about the the scope of AI, and which is beyond just chat GPT prompts actually, or whichever Claude or Perplexity or Gemini is gonna come into mainstream. It's already happening. So agentic AI, companies already talking about it, and they're doing it actually. Um, Give an example. I did one of my summer jobs was in a BPO, business process outsourcing, one of large, very well-known global companies, and I was doing it as a summer job in India. Paid me well at that time. I just read about them that perhaps 50% of their strength of people will not be required in next 2 years, because you have agentic AI coming, and it's a fact. So if you look at the Philippines market, they're going to massive disruption. That's why I said, unlike other trends that I've seen in my lifetime, this is the biggest one because it impacts people and jobs and livelihoods. That's a massive thing to happen. Of same of marketing, implications fairly similar. Um, it's an interesting time. You can do way more with potentially less time and resources. That's the big mantra. Uh, Let me give you an example. And I think we're still in the baby steps phase. For example, content creation, which is very important for marketing, content and creative creation have become really automated. You can create content much faster. Now, the quality And it's how well it resonates is a big question mark. And I can come on that, touch on that, because we've done a lot of experiments for the last 2-3 years. And I realized that, what is easy is not necessarily the gold standard. But yes, it's become easier, which means it's impacting internal people. It's impacting if you outsource your work to agencies or vendors. It is already impacting. I can tell you that. I have reduced people. Okay. At least on outsourced staff, I'm talking about. That's one. So, which is, so email marketing, creative creation, uh, you look for ideas, those are definitely are already impacted in marketing, and various people or brands will be at different stages of it. But generally, they become kind of mainstream now. The other place where most money goes is media and advertise. Now, interestingly, I would say the media industry was already very automated and already had so-called machine learning, and not AI as such, or call it whatever, way before time. Because if you look at how your large platform like a Google, Amazon, Meta, they work, it's a lot of AI already built into it. That's why they can find the right audience, show you that at the right time. So because they sit on massive amounts of first-party data. Now, what is happening is that that's becoming even more automated. The machine's taking better decisions because it's very rational. A machine can decide what to do to get a better performance, for example. So that is another area which will even get disrupted further. It was ahead of the curve, actually. And you might need less resources. And by resources, I primarily mean people. So that's, again, the massive impact on livelihoods. So looking at as a marketeer, all these trends are going together. Analytics. You should spend a lot of time on analytics. Now, you can at least, and we are already doing some stuff there, you can reduce that time and effort required, because you have, a tool, for example, who can help you analyze your data much faster. You can throw data at it in any format you like. You don't have to worry about CSV file. You can, just put it up in any format, and you can get the inference much faster. So you can see I just picked up some random examples, but at every stage, what is done is it's reduced time. It's definitely a lower cost because you've reduced people and salaries, etc. And you get an answer very fast. But what it is, I feel, people will realize this year and onward that you will need very high quality decision making from humans, because machine will do the grunt work. And that's ideally what you want to do. They do the grunt work for you. Manual work, let's call it. It's like the wheel coming in and you really need to push things. It's like engine coming and pulling stuff, the steam revolution. Now it's going to be about people taking better decisions. Now that's when all marketeers, people in this profession or generally, will have to learn that art. And that's again an art of how you take a better decision with all that data, which we solely query about, or there's too much data. I don't know what to do with this data. I don't have the time and resources to manage this. Now that has become much easier. So I think that's, a fundamental change that we have to put in a mindset is to how do you take better decision with all the data made available to you, inferenced, cleaned up, ready for use. So no more excuses. We can't have another excuse that I don't know what to do with my data. So that's the interesting part, Anuj. I think a very interesting time. So, and I think it's back to basics actually. It's back to the value of experience, the value of how you look at things, a perspective, a macro view, a micro view. As I said earlier, understand finance as a marketeer, super important. Speak the language of a CFO. Don't talk marketing language. Nobody in the company understands marketing language except your team and you. And that's why come out of that silo. Yeah, those kind of things.
Absolutely, I think it's an interesting time, and AI and automation, these are the game changer. And you rightly pointed out, I think law of intelligence, and especially it not only help us in better decision but also the informed decision. It provide us lot of predictive analytics, on both the side, from a customer standpoint and even from a team standpoint. And thank you so very much for putting it so beautifully. And Rohan, what do you think are the core pillars of pure storage marketing strategy for APAC? And in this, especially in this very highly competitive market, how does pure storage differentiate itself with the other enterprise storage providers?
So, enterprise storage, I think it's a pretty busy category. It's apart from us, there are at least 6-7 fairly well-known players. some of these companies, and I don't want to pick up names, but they are been in the business for a long time, and they sell the full stack of products. So if you look at storage, it's part of the data center. So we don't sell cloud storage, which is used by individual. I think sometimes people mix that. So we're not a Dropbox, for example. So it's meant for businesses, enterprises, commercial companies, potentially startups if they see value. So our this whole industry is pretty interesting. I said there's some fairly well-known players who've been there in the market for almost 100 years plus, and they sell a variety of things. So they sell compute, which is your processing. They sell storage, which is what we are into, and they sell what is called network, which helps data flow between data centers to your edge, which is your machine, like we're using right now, a computer or a phone, etc., etc. So yeah, busy category. We are, I would say, in this category among the new ones, even though we are a 16-year-old company, so we're not really new, but we are relatively new ones in this field, and we're still getting people who are entering this category, which means there is still lots to be disrupted. So as a company, I think, I fundamentally believe, great marketing cannot sell a bad product. Or vice versa can true. Bad marketing can spoil a bad, can really, not do justice to a good product, but the reverse is never true. So I think with Pure Storage, playing in a very competitive category, I think the strategy which we follow globally. So APAC doesn't have a separated strategy, but we kind of have a consolidated global thinking is to obviously ensure that in this space we are the most cutting edge from product perspective, and hence marketing's job is to ensure that value prop is communicated time and again in the right manner and to the right person. So classic marketing to that extent. We are Pure was one of the I would say perhaps the first. I will not take a bet on this, but I think we were the first ones in our category to offer storage as a service. So a completely subscription-based model, which the others then kind of also got into over time, and we do a great job there. So that becomes a big differentiator, and we talk a lot about that, depending on the market's maturity for it. For example, maybe that not that much in APJ, but definitely in our North America, EMEA markets, where that I think that the clients are maybe a little more open about it. But as things are changing, APJ will also change. What we really pride ourselves is the Net Promoter Score, or NPS. So that is something that is ingrained in the company's philosophy. Again, we still look at ourselves as the challenger brand. So NPS is very important. We actually have I would say, the industry leading NPS, not only in storage category. I'm talking across maybe all kind of B2B technology companies. So our NPS score, which we reported just today in our earnings call, is at 81 points. That's I can tell you the second in our category at least, but potentially, again, I can't do with complete confidence, but the second guy after this would be maybe in 60s at best, not even 60, maybe 40s. So it's very high NPS, and we take a lot of pride, and that is something that we do maintain. And every employee in the company is actually has to contribute to that, and it impacts our compensation. So see, that's a very challenger mentality. So customer service, customer conflict resolution, and problem solving is paramount in the company. I worked in a few companies in my life. I can tell you what that level of focus is very unique to Pure Storage. That's it. We like that challenger mentality. We know we are not the biggest, but we are growing very fast in our category. So we want to keep those ethos with us completely there. So, and all this flows into marketing. I said, marketing is in the service of business. I think that's another thing that marketeers, I would say smart marketers realize, and anybody who aspires to be there should understand that you are in the service of business. You serve a business, not vice versa. You don't serve metrics and a fancy campaign or a creative. All that has to help the business. Now, what part of business or what element of it is something that's it's always, depends on the priority at that moment. So are you trying to make a company more visible? Are you trying to make a company more likable? Are you trying to, impact business or revenue directly? That depends on what is your, priority at that moment of time, or in near to middle term. So for us, playing this category, obviously our strategy is to ensure that we are in front of the right customers who we know in today's world don't want to depend on any vendor to make decisions. And in cliche statements, you've heard 50 times, 100 times that 70% of the journey is now done by the individual themselves. They are buying rooms and operating in B2B. It's a mix cross-functional teams, LOBs coming together, not only, let's say, a tech or IT teams, which is relevant for companies like us, but it's also finance, it's also operations, procurement,
Yep.
could be parallel teams that come into play. Um, People prefer talking to their peers rather than coming to websites or talking to vendors. So all those phenomena are not going to change. They've only increased over time as uh, digitalization happened, which I spoke earlier. So we consume content in a slightly different way than what we were doing. That's why you don't see many large print ads anymore, because nobody's reading newspapers to that extent, what they did maybe 15 years back. But so you have dark internet where people on WhatsApp are talking to their friends or communities which are not really in the open. So as a marketeer, you need to keep all this in mind. And the idea is to build a sustainable connection with the audience. It's easier said than done. I'm putting stuff which is very easy to talk, but very difficult to execute. So our pillars are about product, how well we are able to communicate our value prop to the end customer. Second is obviously about maintaining that customer centricity, making sure that customer is happy, we're able to resolve their problems. Or actually, what we follow in Pure is that we are able to preempt the problems. So, instead of solving, we've already told them that this might be coming. And that's, again, in technology, I feel it's slightly, it's a little different from other industries. So that's a big area, that how do we preempt customer problems and we solve them or tell them proactively before it's going to happen. And then obviously, make sure that we give respect to our customers who we know are smart themselves. We don't bombard them with the same message. We don't overexpose them, but we try to reach them at the right time, or we use technology again to understand which part of the journey they might be. There's no one answer here. And can we try and improve the experience in their own journey, wherever they are, whatever level of journey, with some piece of communication content that gives them value. And once that happens, you see them coming back and engaging better with you. So there's enough empirical data we have internally. We've seen, when we will do certain actions properly, it helps us to find that customer coming or converting much faster. And like anybody else, everybody else, we are in a multi-channel world, which is physical, digital, or physical, it's called. How do we ensure that every touch point is accountable for? So classic marketing language, last touch, first touch, we don't follow that. We all follow a multi-touch attribution model. So I could touch 5 times and then the person gets converted because they came to an event. We give equal attribution to all those steps. So internally, we've been able to build that engine in the backend that's able to give attribution to multiple touches, both physical and digital. Now, from a marketing point, that's very important because you seek attribution. And a lot of time that gets lost if you follow first touch or last touch. We try to a multi-touch, and with its own, we have our own spin to it. So those are some of the things, Anuj, we try to do. Again, I would say there is no one answer that differentiates. All smart marketeers in my category are doing something similar. We try to do it, I think, with more optimization, with a more test and learning attitude. We start fast, we fail fast, and we change. So one good thing in the company, there is no demerit points of failing. So all planned experiments are highly appreciated. They have a little
That's
yeah. So that's what we try to follow. Try something, doesn't work, move on, or make changes in. Yeah.
so that's a very strong and a very well defined strategy, Rohan. The focus on simplicity and sustainability is definitely a key differentiator, and thanks for putting it so beautifully in context to the today's market. So now, just wanted to touch upon the ABM piece. We know, ABM and APX has been the evolution for targeted marketing. So, there has been a shift from ABM to APX, which is account based experience. What are your thoughts on this transition, and how at Pure Storage you implement APX?
Okay. So I personally never liked the word ABM because, first of all, an account-based approach is not about marketing. The foundation of this approach is sales and marketing connect. So perhaps I think, in my opinion, ABX is a slightly better terminology. We could have, I'm sure somebody will find a newer one, account-based engagement. I just heard some marketer talking about it. That's the same thing. But yeah, it's not a marketing play, first of all. That's why, my points about understanding finance and business, because that really help, especially for these initiatives. So let's call it ABX for our chat today. Um, so I think generally B2B marketing at some level is essentially ABX until you are a very broad player, which most of us not. I have also worked in Intel, so it's a very differentiated company, ingredient brand, spans both consumer and business verticals. So it's a very different there. But for a company like mine, current company, Pure Storage, I think ABX is our foundation of how we approach marketing. Because, it's the classic Pareto's law, 80/20. And in our case, it's large enterprise customers, your Fortune 5,000 companies, which will give you the bulk of the business. Uh, and they will give you large contracts, which will keep renewing over time. And that's better in terms of putting your energies versus going after the, let's say, smaller companies, which take the same time, but your final outcome is much smaller in terms of revenue contribution. So ABS, I think, is a fundamental way how we work. We we do all three levels of ABX. So 1:1, 1:few, and 1:many. That's sort of the fundamentals of ABX. So, but the biggest focus we have is on the large accounts that we have identified at a global level. So that's an exercise that we do every year. We just finished this one for our current financial year, which just started, our FY26, as we call it. So ABX is about how do we, on those very large accounts that are of material importance to us as a company, and in my case, the ones in APJ, which is, there's a reasonable number of them in APJ, large size companies, which everybody knows because, if I start naming them, those are big companies you all know. The idea is to have one GTM motion across sales and marketing. Because, for these kind of accounts, sales already has a warm body for them. AE, pre-sales, SC, etc., depending on how company is structured. So the job of marketing is to complement their efforts. So I said, marketing's job is to work to give a lot of times an air cover and then go deep when required. What I mean by that. So I use a lot of military analogies. So I went to a military school for some time in my life. So I use some military analogies. So example is, it's a large account that you have cracked. Let's say it's a big bank in Singapore. Your team's already in. You are talking to one side of the house typically. Where most companies like us, we always have this challenge is to meet more LOBs because each of them have their own budgets. So buying committee, buying groups come into play. Now we talk to one set who's, let's say, given us a large deal, but there's another team who might have a bigger deal in action, but we don't know anybody there. So marketing's job is to find and identify right individuals for sales. Then try and, it's said, so that's the air cover part. Then you get into building a connection with them, which is going deep. You know who start to from unknowns to knowns. Then you build a connection, which is all largely digitally led initially. And at the right time, when this connection seems to have reached a point of certain maturity, you let your salespeople or account people go in and build it further. So that's the going deep part. And from there, find ways of engaging them. And normally at this stage, the engagement becomes more physical. So events, EBCs, workshops happen. And then finally it gets to maturity, which complete maturity, which is or conversion when finally they buy something from you. So this typically in my company and industry, this takes anywhere between 6 to 10 months. Other companies would have a longer cycle, some might have a shorter cycle, depending on what they're selling. So for us, it could be anywhere between 6 to 10 months, even longer for larger deals. So if a deal runs into multi-million, then this can take up to 18 months on an average. And that's generally the norm. Again, give and take few months here and there. So if you see, ABX is not about me sending 5 emails. It's about me on a sustainable, consistent basis, communicating, building a connection, understanding at every stage. Again, back to my point of multi-touch attribution. How does each of the steps that I am taking leading to the final end goal of revenue? And at what step can I involve a human being, a sales buddy, to come in and build that connection further? So again, very important. So 1:1 ABM is done in this way. Even 1:few ABM, we try to follow the same model instead of making completely customized for one big account, a bank or a telecom company. 1:few is by category. So I would do it at a category level, which means all telco companies will have that kind of messaging going to them. So it's less personalized. The first one is hyper personalized, and 1:2 many is, let's call B2B mass marketing. So you're going with a certain message which goes out to all of them, of course, with right amount of filters and targeting. We don't target consumers. I will not target, let's say, my own kid or my father because they're not right audience. But again, keeping the basics of marketing hygiene, you go with a little more broad message. Typically, it's brand message so that people get to know you, start understanding for you. As I said, we are a challenger brand. We still have that. We are not that well known compared to some of our more legacy competition. So our job always is to tell people that, hey, this is what we do very well. So know about us. And then once they have the right need, you bring them into the funnel of engaging with them, and then they follow their own journey, which is not the same as the large account. So that's ABX for us. Again, I've tried to put it simplistically, but yeah, the biggest challenge is working with sales because you need to have common objectives. So for ABM, we have combined KPIs. We don't have separate KPIs. That's very important because those are things which are the more difficult part of Anuj. Whatever I said is the easier part. Difficult is to have combined KPIs, combined account strategy, combined GTM, which are lockstep with your sales side. Anywhere that goes, it's like this kind of race you should run as kids when your legs are tied and you have to run and win the race. Two people that one of the legs are tied, maybe left or right, whatever, and then you win the race. It's exactly like that. Even one partner fidges, you will fall down, you lose the race. So it's kind of that kind of analogy that comes into play for ABX. And again, I think we do good stuff on certain areas. There is we also have to improve because it's very, very resource intensive style of marketing, especially when you go once for once. You have to create so much, engage so much without fatigue coming in. And then obviously make sure that you are lockstep with your sales buddy. Yeah, it's a fair amount of heavy lift that happens.
Absolutely. I think it makes a lot of sense in today's hyper connected world also, experience is more important than just doing a typical marketing. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So with this, probably I'll just go to touch on the last question,
Sure.
which is all about your advice to the aspiring marketers, probably across the globe. So there are a lot of young aspirants watching us.
Sure.
What kind of an advice you want to give it to them?
So I can always, so I don't think I am experienced or old enough to give an advice to somebody, but I can always relate to my experience, what I learned over time. I think I mentioned in the beginning, I think first thing is, as a marketeer, if you want to aspire and that to into today's environment. So I came from a different environment. I told you it was an analog world and has become a complete digital world. So I've been lucky in that sense to see that transition. The marketeers today who are in the market for let's say less than 5 years or are entering, they always live the digital world. So they will always have that advantage. They're native digital thinkers,
Yep.
unlike. But I think what I would definitely tell them, even them, and more importantly to them, is to understand and be prepared for these complete shifts. Keep this learning mindset on. I mean, and the beauty of marketing is you never stop learning because there's no right answer. So if somebody tells you this worked for us, there's no guarantee it'll work again because time has changed. The same consumer or customer who initially bought into a message or an idea that you were selling as a company has moved on. So it's the most dynamic field, I would say. If you look at compared to finance or to operations or other, typically large, big, segments in a company, you'll realize that marketing is the most dynamic. It's the most changing of all. So as a marketer, don't keep fixated on your own domain. Learn about other things because that is what needed, especially for large companies. And if you work in a young company or plan to start your even more. So imagine you were a startup founder who comes from marketing background. You need to understand finance. You need to understand operations, delivery, customer care, everything. And in smaller companies, so I came from much bigger company to a smaller company. I can tell you, I've learned more here because we do everything. The mindset is different. So that's one. So don't get stuck to that. Oh, I can only create great campaigns. Very good. But build some muscle to understand the economic implication of those things. That's one. Um, Go talk to peers. I sometimes see a lot of marketeers. I can only comment on marketeers here. Because of internal work, we get little in our own towers, siloed. We don't. It's very important to talk to other people. So go out, find ways, talk to people, see what others are doing. Learn from experience. Again, basic socializing really helps in marketing. Not saying it doesn't work in other fields, but definitely for marketing because things change very fast, and there are many ways of doing the same thing. Like we spoke about ABX. You talk to somebody else, they will have a very different point of view potentially, and that's how you build your own point of view, understanding from other people what they've done, and maybe avoiding their mistakes. So that's one. Socialize. Try to meet people. Don't keep yourself in a shell. Build that little muscle. Feel okay. Even if you're not a socializing kind, extrovert as it's called, don't worry. Go out. Try and meet. Um, the third thing I would always say is keep reskilling yourself. Very important. I said when I started off, I was making media plans on, literally, I didn't even have a computer at that time. My company now gave me one basically. So it was transcribes. We were had those transparencies, even those old school projectors, etc. That was the norm. So uh, I learned how to write. I mean, I will not say I'm a professional writer, but I could draft stuff pretty well. And one of my boss said, "Hey, you write very well. You summarize very well. You become now the note keeper." I said, "Yeah, sure." And what helped me was I could get into the larger meeting, which I was not uh, senior enough because I was the official note keeper. So I could understand strategy when they are planning for a campaign for a brand or a client of ours. I could understand what the thinking is. So it helped me up level my thinking because I was sitting with smarter people. So another thing, when I said about socializing, try to meet people who are smarter than you. They could be senior than you. They could be just smarter people. So age has nothing to do with smartness. Especially in marketing. You have brilliant talents who are very young. So don't feel bad if somebody is younger than you and is way smarter. Learn from them. There is no there's no shame in learning from anybody actually. So keep reskilling. Um, when something new comes up, approach it, try it, at your own level. For example, when ChatGPT came out a few weeks before that, somebody had introduced to me about it, and I was already using it. So when the whole hype came in, I had a better idea than other people because I had already playing with it, though I did not know that the impact this might make. I was odd. Like when Mid Journey came, I could type something, I could see that, coming on my screen in like seconds, which, required Adobe skills. You don't need any more. So, be prepared that things will keep changing. So keep reskilling yourself, try things, um, invest time and sometimes resources in picking up certifications or, just trying these tools. A lot of times you become, oh, why pay $20 for this? It's okay. No, I think get a little more open about these things. Maybe it's it's two coffees. You skip on two coffees, but get a license or a subscription, to something which seems new and interesting. Don't feel bad about it. If you don't like it, stop it. Everything in the world is now pay as you go, right? So I think those things are very important. Learning attitude, talk to people, try to become a little more open, and understand the language of business rather than only the marketing language. I think those things I would think from my experience have helped me out. If you do those, I think it'll definitely make you a better marketeer.
Brilliant advice, Rohan. Learning, socializing, reskilling, meeting smarter people. I think that's a excellent advice, Rohan. This has been an very insightful discussion. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your thoughts. And with this, we wrap up for today's Marketing Monday. Thank you, Rohan, for your time and the insight. Until next time, keep innovating in marketing.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.